This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Habayim, Baruch Shechianu v'Kimanu v'Gianu Lazman Hazeh. We're finally here, Be'ezras Hashem, and there's a big question. How do you? Where do you start when you start in a shul? Where do you start? The tefillos, the shiurim. A shul is built on Torah, so this is the best way to start. We're mispalel, the Rebbe should give us siyata d'shmaya. There should be zoicha to come together, b'kvius for many years to come. L'kadei shem shemayim barabim, lahagdil Torah la'adira. Amen v'amen. Amen. Okay, it's Parshas Toldos. I was bothered my whole life. There's one inyan in the Parsha which is very difficult to understand. Of course, it troubles everybody. It's hard to explain. It's hard to understand. Here you have Eisav. Everybody knows Esau Parshas. He's a roitzeach. He's bar al nar murasa. And somehow, at least the Pashup Shan, the Psukim, it seems that Yitzhak Avinu thinks that Esav's a good guy. To the point where Yitzhak wants to give Esau the brachas. How do you explain such a thing? That Yitzhak really thinks that Esau was a bigger tzaddik than Yaakov Avinu? So Yitzhak was blind. He couldn't really see. But still, at the end of the day, the Arizal, he could be sitting in the same room as you, and he felt the vibes. He understood who you were. He could be sitting next to you, his eyes could be closed, and he knew exactly what madrega you're on. And somehow Yitzhak Avinu didn't understand, didn't grasp who Esau was. How did Esau successfully mask himself? How did he hide himself? How did Yitzhak think that Esau was greater than Yaakov Avinu? So we begin with a pasuk. Take a look on your sheet, number 1 on your sheet. Vayehav Yitzchak Yasei. Everybody have Mar Makaimos. Vayehav Yitzchak Yasei Eisav. Yitzchak love Eisav kitzayid befiv. What does it mean kitzayid befiv? Pashup shah kitzayid befiv. Eisav gave Yitzchak meat. And that's Pashup shah. Yitzchak was given food by Eisav Harasha. And that's what the Torah says. Vayehav Yitzchak Yasei Eisav kitzayid befiv. What is the Pashup shah in the pasuk? Did he really love Eisav because Eisav fed him? How do you read? Ein mikro yotzim de pshutai. What does the pasuk mean that Yitzchak loved Eisav because kitzayid bepiv? Okay, we come on. We know that Yitzchak tells Eisav, "Go fetch me some food. I'm going to give you the brachos." And you take a look at number 2. So Yitzchak says, "V'ata sana chilecha." Do me a favor. Take your weapons. Telyecha, your sword. V'kashtecha, your bow. V'tzei hasadeh. Take a look at the pasuk. V'tzu dalit sayid. Capture me some game. So you look at the word sayid in the pasuk, you realize it's a kriksiv. It's spelled sadik yud dalet hey. There's an extra hey, but we don't pronounce it that. We don't pronounce it v'tzu dalit sayid. We pronounce it v'tzu dalit sayid. What's the extra hey doing there? Why is there an extra hey? We don't even pronounce it. It's a kriksiv. Why is there an extra hey? And then there's something very unusual, very surprising. Pasuk says like this: V'asali matamim. Make for me these dishes. Kasher ohavti. So Yitzchak Avinu says, make me the food like I love. I mean, Yitzchak's a gadol hadar. Imagine Rabbi Yashav, right? He would say, make me that kind of food that I really love. It's not the kind of expression that you would expect that Yitzchak Avinu would say, make me the kind of food that I love. You wouldn't even think Yitzchak Avinu would be goyres the food. So kasher ohavti. It's not something you would have expected. Avram Avinu, you don't find anywhere saying food kasher ahavti. Yaakov Avinu doesn't say kasher ahavti. What does it mean kasher ahavti? And even Rivka Yimenu, when Rivka tells Yaakov, go bring your father food, she says, here, get me the 2 goats. Esau matam lavicha kasher ohev. I'm going to make it the way he likes it, the way he loves it. Well, Yitzchak Avinu loved food. What is this expression? Make me the food that I love. Okay. Another question. You go further on. So Rivka tells Yaakov, you can't let Esau get the brachos. You have to take the brachos. So the pasuk says, look at number 3, Perek Chav Zayin, pasuk Ches. V'ata b'ni, and now my son, Shema b'koili, listen to my voice. La'asher ani mitzava oisach, what I'm commanding you. So just listen to the music of the pasuk. Rivka says, my son, my dear son, listen to my voice when I'm commanding you. Just say, just do it. Yitzchak Avinu doesn't say to Eisav, Shema b'koili la'asher ani mitzvah. If you want somebody to do something, you call them in the room and you say, here are the instructions. You don't need to preface it with the introduction, Shema b'koili la'asher ani mitzvah oisach. What's this? It's extra, it's superfluous, it's miyutar. What's Shema b'koili la'asher ani mitzvah oisach? And then his mother continues. If you look back in number 2, it's Parak Chav Zayin Pasuk Tes. She says, Lechna, please. There's not a big deal over here. All she's asking him to do is go to get the 2 goats, and feed it to your father. What's Shema b'koili? What's a Lashon Na, Lashon Bakasha? It would seem very excessive. Okay. So now we're getting into it a little bit more. So Yaakov Avinu finally comes into Yitzchak. So the pasuk says, Parak Chav Zayin, Pasuk Chav Zayin number 4. Vayigash, he comes in. Vayishak loy, he kisses him. Vayorach es reach begadav, he smells the aroma. Vayivarcheu, he gives him a bracha, and then he comments. Vayoyim, re'ei reach b'ni kereach sada shaber Hashem. Ah, it smells so good. You smell so good. Usually people don't openly comment on the way other people smell. Usually when even a parent and a child, when your kid comes in, that's not necessarily the first remark you make, how good or lack thereof the person smells. Why is Yitzchak commenting on the smell of Yaakov? Avinu says Rashi says, Rashi Kasha, how good he smells. He was wearing the big day Eisav HaChamudos. Big day Eisav HaChamudos were made out of shetef izim, it's goat hair. Nothing in the world smells worse than goat hair. What do you mean it smells so good? Says Rashi, Melamed shenichnasa imoy reach Gan Eden. Yaakov Avinu smelled like paradise. He smelled like Gan Eden. Good to know. Now, all of a sudden, the Torah Kedosha has to tell me exactly how good Yaakov Avinu smelled. Why did he smell like Gan Eden? Why is the Torah telling this to me? Why is Yitzchak saying this to Yaakov? Why are we even mentioning the aroma of Yaakov Avinu? And then, so Yaakov gets the brachos, he slips out, Yaakov, all of a sudden, Esau sneaks in, and the pasuk says like this, Vayechrad Yitzchak charada gedola. Yitzchak trembles, ad me'oid, very much. Vayomer, mi eifoi hu atzot sayed. You're Esau, so who's the first guy? Vayover, who's the first guy? Who did I eat from initially? So very interesting. Rashi's bothered again. Why is Yitzchak trembling so greatly? Vayecharad, why is he trembling? Zokt Rashi, it's the smell again. It's all the smell. Everything's the smell. Says Rashi, Vayecharad umidrashay ra gehenom psucha mitachta. When Eisav walks into the room, Yitzchak Avinu, who was blind, so he couldn't see anything, but he perceived Gehenim. He saw the purgatory. So Gehenim's opening up in front of him. So Yaakov Avinu walks in, all of a sudden, Gan Eden. Eisav walks in, what happens? Gehenim. It's interesting, when Eisav walked in, Yitzchak perceived Gehenim, then what took him so long to realize what a Rasha Eisav was? If Eisav brought with him Gehenim, when Gehenim's in the room, you know it, I guarantee you. When you're in the presence of Gehenim, you'll know. So, all of a sudden, if Esau brought Gehenim with him, then what took Yitzchak Avinu so long to figure out the true character of Esau? Okay, so let's go back a little bit. What is this business that Yitzchak loved Esau because of the food? What exactly was Esau serving him? There are a lot of good restaurants, but I can't imagine that Esau came up with something that, got Yitzchak Avinu excited. Right, haliteinu nam min ha'adar ha'adam hazeh. If you want to know what that means, you have over here, koyach hadimyon of the haliteinu. What exactly was Eisav feeding Yitzchak Avinu? So the Targum says very pashut. Look at number 8. Urachem Yitzchak yas Eisav. Yitzchak loved Eisav. Arei mitzeidei hava'acha, because he ate his food. Pshuta k'mashma. Yitzchak liked Eisav's cooking. That's what the Targum says. So Ibn Ezra explains further. By the way, the Ibn Ezra lived a very interesting life. Ibn Ezra was one of the greatest all-time Farshim ala Torah. In fact, the Kotzker Rebbe said, people think of Rishonim, they're very sophisticated, they're very broad, they're very worldly. The Kotzker said about the Ibn Ezra, I can't imagine how a human being could have such broad shoulders to carry so much Yiras Shamayim. That's what the Kotzker said about the Ibn Ezra. Ibn Ezra was a poet, he was a philosopher, he was an astronomer. There was one thing he was terrible at. He could not make money. Every business venture Ibn Ezra ever went into was an abysmal failure. He tried many different things. And it seems like the way he learns this inyan was Lishitase, because he says like this. You know why Yitzhak loved Eisav? Because Yitzhak had no money. Yitzhak was an Araman. He lost all the money that Avraham Avinu gave to him. Yitzchak made bad business deals. He lost every penny. He had no money. He Pasha didn't have bread on the table. So Esau came in with food. It revived him. That's why he loved him. Says Ibn Ezra, I'll prove to you that Yitzchak was very poor. What's the raya? Because the Pasha says, Vayiv es Esau es ha-b'chayra. Esau despised. He looked down on the b'char. Why? Because he knew his father had no money. And he made a simple cheshbon. The cheshbon is, this pot of beans is worth more than the entire Yerusha he could expect from Yitzchak Avinu. His father had no money. His father lost it all. Maybe he made bad investment in the Be'erois, whatever it was. Yitzchak Avinu lost all his money. He says the raya is when they send Yaakov Avinu out of the house, he didn't have a penny. The Yaakov Avinu is mispalav. Then suddenly lechem lecho ubeged lilbosh. He had no bread. He had no begadim. In fact, Ibn Ezra says that Eisav had big chamudos. What happened to Yaakov's begadim? Yaakov had no begadim. He had no begadim. Yaakov had nothing to wear. Yitzchak had nothing to eat. So Yitzchak Pasha loved Eisav because he would give him food. The Ramban dismisses this. The Ramban does not buy into this pshat of the Ibn Ezra that Yitzchak did not deal with his Yerusha properly. So Ramban says the following. Says Ramban that a Navi, in order to attain Nevuah, in order to attain prophecy, you have to reach a certain madrega of simcha. So just like in the times of the Nevi'im, right, the pasuk says, V'haya v'yata kachuli menagin, V'haya kenagin ha-menagin, v'atahi olav ruach Hashem. Right? Everybody knows it's a Shwaki song, so everybody's familiar, right? V'haya kemenagin ha-menagin. So the Nevi'im used to have music played for them. It would revive their spirits, it would lift their spirits, it would put them into a state of euphoria, and that would allow them to connect B'ruach HaKodesh and commune with the Ribono Shel Olam. So says Ramban, Yitzchak Avinu felt that eating the extra food would elevate his mood, elevate his spirit, revive him, put him on the madriga where he could connect to the Ribono Shel Olam so that he would be able to give a proper bracha. That was the inyan of the tzayid, Vayehav Yitzchak es Eisav ki tzayid b'piv. The food, it's not that Yitzchak Avinu was so into the food, it gave him and put him in a good mood. Even a big tzaddik, when you have some food, it puts you in a good mood. Comes Rav Tzadok HaKohen, the pre-tzaddik, and Rav Tzadok HaKohen says, the Ibn Ezra, I don't accept that. That the reason why Yitzchak loved Eisav is because Yitzchak was poor. It's very hard to accept that. And the Ramban says, Rav Tzadok, it's very hard to be satisfied with the explanation that the food was putting Yitzchak into a good spirit. What kind of good spirit? Tzaddikim don't need food to put them into a good spirit. Maybe music, if it's Shiur, but this kind of food, meat never elevated anybody into any major madregas. You never found like tzaddikim, they're sitting in the tents, and then they have a sefer in front of them and say, one second, before I learn, I have to put myself in the right mood, and they start eating basar. It's not, says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, a ga'oinus tikachap. It's a little bit of a lamda shachap, but it's not going to be a lamda shashir, but just listen to the point. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, tzaddikim, in order to connect with the Ribono Shel Olam, they need tam a mitzvah. They need the taste of a mitzvah. So says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, a very interesting thing. There's a Gemara Masechta Kedushin on number 12, the beginning of the second parak, Ho'ish Mekadesh, right? The Mishnah says, everybody knows the Mishnah. Ho'ish Mekadesh boy uvishluchai. A man can get married, you, or through your agent. You are a shliach. Ha'isha miskadeshes ba uvishlucha. A woman could get married through her or her agent. So the Gemara asks, once we know a man could be mekadesh through an agent, through a shliach, it goes without saying the man could do it himself. Once a woman could get married through a shliach, it goes without saying that she could get married herself. Just say, ha'ish mekadesh b'shlucha, ha'isha miskadeshes b'shlucha. It would be it's understood, it's self-evident that once you could do it b'shliach, you could do it yourself. Once she could do it b'shliach, she could do it. Says the Gemara like this. The Gemara says, really, it's true. But the reason why the Mishnah says first, Ha'ish Mekadesh, is mitzvah ba yoser mibeshluchei. It's a greater mitzvah to do it yourself than to appoint an agent. It's a greater mitzvah for the woman to be makabel, the kesef kedushin herself, than to do it through a shliach. Okay, it's a yesod. Mitzvah ba yoser mibeshluchei. So even though the case is not necessary, it teaches you this way to help us understand mitzvah ba yoser mibeshluchei. Frek the Ran. Ready for the Ran's kasha? Ask the Ran. I understand by a man, mitzvah ba yoser mibeshluchei, there's a mitzvah for a man to get married. Really? It's one of the 613 mitzvahs? What mitzvah is it to get married? Says the Ran, the mitzvah is pruravu. A man has a mitzvah to nikayim the mitzvah d'oraisa pruravu. Machlok is Beisham Beisil. Beisil says one boy, one girl. Beishamai says two boys. Midrabanan, every one is another mitzvah d'rabanan. That's the mitzvah on the man. There's no mitzvah pruravu on a woman. A woman has no commandment whatsoever. Not Beishamai, not Beis Woman's not mitzvah and pruravu. Only the man is mitzvah and pruravu. So frek the Ran, what do you mean mitzvah ba yoser mi beshlucha? There's no mitzvah for a woman to get married. It's a good thing. She should do it. She needs to do it. But it's not a mitzvah d'oraisa. The mitzvah is incumbent on the man. It doesn't devolve on the woman. Mitzvah, the pruravu is on the man, not on the woman. Says the Ran. You ready for this? Says the Ran. Technically speaking, there's no mitzvah on the woman. But, you know, as I say, it takes two to, right? You need two people. So for her to get married, she's facilitating, she's an enabler, she's an accomplice to the mitzvah. She's Messiah the same way, right? Tosfos says in Masechta Shabbos, there's an idea of Messiah lidei ovrei aveira. Even in situations where you're not helping somebody do an aveira, but you could be Messiah, you could assist, you could abet, you could facilitate. So too, when it comes l'toiv by a mitzvah, he couldn't do it without her. So for her to get married, she's doing a mitzvah of helping him. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen. Ready for this chap? Eisav was being mekayim a very big mitzvah. We know. So we're going to digress for a moment. Eisav was the quintessential fulfiller of the mitzvah of kibbud avim. In fact, the Medrash Rabbah says, you have it on sheet number 14, Parsha Samachay, that Rav Shimon Gamliel said, my whole life, I would serve my father, I would honor my father, I would bring him food, but I don't come to the toenails of Eisav Rasha. Eisav served his father 100 times more than I served my father. Why? Because when I served my father, if it was the end of the day, I would keep on my work garments. I wouldn't put on new clothing. Eisav, whenever he would serve his father, he would put on new begadim, he would put on fresh begadim. So we know Eisav Harasha was the greatest human being who excelled in the midst of kibbud avim. So now we just digress for a moment. Rav Tzadok asks, why is that? No Yid ever reached the Madrega of Eisav Harasha and Kibbud Avim? Like, why wasn't anyone ever able to reach the Madrega of Eisav? How was it that Davka Eisav Harasha excelled in this mitzvah? So Rav Tzadok says a very interesting idea. He says, Rav Tzadok, it really stemmed from a certain lacking in Eisav. Because the Gemara says like this, why do you have to respect your father? So Gemara says, if your father asks you to get him something and your Rabbi asks you to get him something, yeah, who do you listen to? Your father, your Rabbi. So Gemara says like this, your father, Maviyah lidei chai olam hazeh. Your Rabbi brings you into olam haba. So the Rabbi takes precedence over the father. By the way, it's the first year, but no time like the first year. The same way, Rabbi say, nobody ever made it into olam hazeh without a father. Never happened. Nobody ever made it into olam haba. Here? No into Daya l'chakima baramiza. So now it says Rav Tzadok HaKohen. That means the chiddush of kibbud avim, is why do you honor your father? Because he brought you into olam hazeh. Hi. So you imagine two Jews. You have two people. One guy doesn't really care about olam hazeh. He's focused on olam haba. Not so easy for him to excel in kibbud avim. What he's going to honor the person who brought him to olam hazeh. The ikar is not olam hazeh. Eisav Harasha was so machshiv olam hazeh. There was no one in history that loved olam hazeh like Eisav. A regular yid, olam hazeh. He says, the Gemara in Eruvin says, Noach lo'el adam shalei nivra. Right? Olam hazeh brought me to olam hazeh. Moichel toivos. Yeah? I'm better off not being here. It was only because Eisav Harasha so appreciated Olam Hazeh that he excelled in Kibbut Av more than anybody else, because he loved Olam Hazeh. So then how is a Yid Mekayim Kibbut Av? It's a Gezeres HaKosov. It really goes against our nature. But what can we do? The Rebbe Shalom commanded us. But Esau loved Olam Hazeh so much, so nobody ever was Mechabed his father like Esau. That's what Yitzhak says, just a side point. So now he says like this. Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Esau now, by bringing his father the food, was being Mekayim a tremendous mitzvah of Kibbut Av. But Yitzchak was also being Mekayim a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? The mitzvah of the Ran. That the same way a man cannot be Mekayim Puravu without the woman, a son cannot be Mekayim Kibbut Avim without the father. So Yitzchak was being Mekayim a mitzvah by eating the food of his father. Whenever Yitzchak would eat the food of his father, he tasted the Chiddush of the Ran. He tasted the mitzvah, the Sudas mitzvah. Whenever Yitzchak ate the food of Eisav, Eisav was bringing food, this was Kibbut Avim. Yitzchak was enabling the mitzvah. This mitzvah of Messiah Alidei Obrei mitzvah was so dear to Yitzchak Avinu, he loved it so much that he assisted his son. Look, it's not like a goal. You know, what's better, a goal or an assist? The covet goes to the guy who gets the goal. But Lamaisa, an assist is also a point. So Eisav got the goal, but we're giving a point to Yitzchak Avinu. We're giving he got the assist on the mitzvah. So therefore, that's what Yitzchak said. Bring me tzayir asher ohev. I love it because I'm mekayim the mitzvah of siyu alidei mitzvah. Okay, so says the Ran. Says Yitzhak HaKohen. This explains, by the way, why the pasuk has an extra hey going back into number 2. So Rivka, Yitzchak Avinu says, "Ve'ata sana chelecha." There's an extra hey. Says Yitzhak HaKohen, a cloud from the Arizal. Arizal says that whenever you have an extra letter in the Torah, if it's an extra letter from the name of Hashem, a Yud, a Hey, or a Vav, it denotes, it symbolizes extra Kedusha. So what Yitzchak Avinu was saying is, if you bring me the food and I get the assist, you know what we're bringing down here? We're bringing here more Shem Hashem. That's the extra Hey. Just like the Arizal says by Ephraim was missing the letter Vav. The letter Vav is also from the Shem Hashem. That also denoted that Ephraim was lacking in the Shem Hashem. Okay. Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Rivka Imenu has a big problem. Because Yitzchak didn't like the food, because he liked the food. Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, the proof is Yitzchak had no clue what he was eating. Yitzchak asked Eisav, get me what? Game. What's game? Deer. Now, I'm not a big connoisseur, I'm not a big maven. But if I wanted to eat venison, which I never did in my life, and you brought me a goat, I guarantee you I would know the difference. And here Yitzchak Avinu tells Eisav, go bring me deer, bring me venison. And his mother says, bring him shnei gedoyis. They bring him 2 goats, and he's eating it, and he says, Mamish Gan Eden. Hello? Well, you know, you're supposed to be getting a goat. You're supposed to be getting a deer over here, and you're getting a goat. The answer is Yitzchak didn't care about the food. What he cared about was the tam of the mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? He tasted in the food that by accepting this food, I'm assisting in your mitzvah. So Rivka said, how in the world are we going to replicate and duplicate the tam ha-mitzvah that your father would taste in the food? So she says to Yaakov, I have a great idea. Shema b'koili. Listen to my voice. Forget the kibbut av. Try to knock into the food some kibbutim. That's close enough. He won't know the difference. That much of a maven he's not. Maybe the difference between a tam of kibbut av and the tam of tefillin, maybe that much he knows. He'll never know the difference between the tam ha-mitzvah of kibbut av and the tam ha-mitzvah of kibbutim. And it could be, Yitzchak picked up on it. He says, well, re'eh re'ach b'ni karech hasada. I'm not used to this tam gan. It's a little bit of a different tam gan eden. But that is why, says Yitzhak HaKohen, Rivka emphasizes, V'ata b'ni shema b'koili, listen to my voice. The ikar here is, don't bring him food. If you bring him food, he's going to catch on right away. Because the food that Esau was supposed to bring was the food that has an etam mitzvah of kibbut av. The food that you're going to bring, if you just bring food without me commanding you, it's just going to be fruit. It's not going to have any tam mitzvah. So this is what we have to emphasize, says Rivka. Let's emphasize the fact that I'm commanding you, and this way, if you're shema b'koili, I'll get the assist. So you're bringing the food for me, And the assist that I get, the siyua of the mitzvah that I get, will also go into the food, and he'll never know the difference. Okay. By the way, there's another Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Parsha B'Shalach. He uses the same yisoid for an amazing thing. He talks about a very interesting minhag. He calls it a minhag. He says, a minhag Yisrael is, for those Jews who are oyhavei Torah, those Jews who want to see their children grow in Torah, there's a minhag Yisrael to support your children so that they can learn after they get married a little bit. That's a big thing. It's a minhag. It's what people do. No, it's a minhag Yisrael. It's a minhag. What's pshat in the minhag, says Reb Tzadok? Pshat is like this. In order to be successful in Torah, you have to eat the right foods. That's why before Hashem gave us the Torah in Har Sinai, He gave us the man. The man is lechem ha'abirim sha'achalesh. It's the bread of the Malachi Hasharis. You can't just learn. You have to have the right sustenance. So the parents' cheshbon is like this. You ready for the parents' cheshbon? They say, how are we going to ensure that our children are successful in learning? We're going to be mekayim the mitzvah of helping them learn. Okay. They're going to get an assist. How are they going to get an assist? By taking the check. They get an assist. So by them accepting the food, they're mekayim a mitzvah. Therefore, the food then is injected with kedusha, and all the learning the child does for the rest of his life is based on the food of mitzvah that the parents gave the child when they were growing up. That's what I'm saying. So I was thinking this is a beautiful reason for the minhag Yisrael of having food at a shiur. Could be it's a mitzvah to eat the food. Why? Because the people giving the food, what's their kavanah? They want the learning to be more interesting. They want more people to come. So, but it takes two to tango, right? If nobody eats the food, they're not get the mitzvah. So by eating the food, you get an assist. Oh, now the food is injected with kedusha, so it could be mechadesh. I know a lot of people, they're very makbid on this mitzvah. They're just, I'm not saying this, for sure. I'm just saying b'derech efsher. Okay, but that is the idea that Rivka Imenu was trying to replicate the tam. That's why Yitzhak Avinu says that ba'aseli matamim kasher ahavti. Make the food that I love. He didn't love the food. He loved the tam mitzvah that was in the food. Okay, so this is Rabbi said. This is just by way of introduction. Now we're going to get into it. Says the Mishnah in the beginning of Parak Chelek in Sanhedrin. Says the Mishnah Azai. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. Ask of Chaim Volozhiner, what do you mean la'olam haba? If you were writing the Mishnah, what would you write? Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. In olam haba. What's la'olam haba? What's to olam haba? Ready for this? Says Rav Chaim Volozhiner. I will read to you the words. He says it in the Ruach Chaim on Pirkei Avos, and he says it in Nefesh HaChaim, Sharav Parakval. Let's read number 18. Says Rav Chaim Volozhiner. Very important words. Hine yodua, it is known. Ki be'ez yale al rayoine ish lasois mitzvah. The moment it enters your mind to do a mitzvah, the moment you have in your thought, you know what? Tonight I'm going to go to the shiur. Tonight I'm going to learn with Chavrusa. Tonight I'm going to do a mitzvah. The moment it enters your mind, Naser Rishumay Lamala. All of a sudden in Shamayim there's a big impression. There's a big, something happens in Shamayim. Umisoirer olav or makif me'akadusha. You're surrounded with some kind of light that surrounds you, of holiness. V'ha'adam betuvach. The person is in the middle of this light. And this light, says Chaim Volozhiner, will give you assistance and will support you. Ki hu yoshev k'moi began Eden mamish makom kadosh. You hear this? That as soon as a person has in mind, I'm going to do a mitzvah tonight, all of a sudden it descends from Shamayim. You're in Gan Eden mamish. Not it's a like Gan Eden, it looks like Gan Eden, it's a little bit like Gan Eden. It's something, no. You're in Gan Eden, you're surrounded by the light of Gan Eden. And that light, the Hakdusha Malbashtoi, the Kedusha dons you, it clothes you. And when you do the mitzvah, the Kedusha intensifies. And when you're done with the mitzvah, Rebbe Shalom then takes that light, and that's your Olam Haba. Chaim Volozhiner continues. Rachmana litzlan. If a person does an Aveira, all of a sudden, Kayach HaTumah comes down. Not like Gehenna, not something remotely similar to Gehenna, not a lot of Gehenna, Gehenna comes down at the moment you decide to do a mitzvah, to do an avera. You are in Gehenna mamish. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, what's the best way to save yourself from doing an avera? Let's say a person says, I know what to do. I feel I have a tremendous taiva, tremendous temptation. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, quick! You do a mitzvah. You do a mitzvah, you're surrounded in Gan Eden. Once you're in Gan Eden, Yitzhak has no shlita over you. Quick! Mashchei l'beis hamedrash. What's pshat mashchei l'beis? Put on your tefillin, put on your talis, say your bracha, do something. Because once you're in the bubble of Gan Eden, it's not, if you do a mitzvah, then Hashem allows you to experience something that remotely resembles neural. Gan Eden, mamish, descends on this world, and you are in it, you're like in a bubble of Gan Eden. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, listen to these words. He says, ein manois, on the bottom of the piece, the bottom number 18, on the right-hand column. Ein manois yoiser gadol hinotzel me'avain. There's no better way to spare yourself from an avera, kemasei ha-mitzvah. Ki al yadai hu mesuchach betzel ha-kedusha. Because through doing a mitzvah, you're covered in the shade of kedusha. V'reach Gan Eden nichnas imoy b'chayav. You smell like Gan Eden. You're in Gan Eden. You're in Gan Eden. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, what's pshat mitzvah gareres mitzvah? Because when you do a mitzvah, then Hashem sends down Gan Eden mamish. And that Gan Eden says, you know what? This is a good place to be. I want to continue being here. Once you're in Gan Eden, Yitzhak is knocking on the door. He can't really come in. Obviously he can. Adam Arishon was in the Hagoyis on the Nefesh Chaim. Rabbi Shabbos, what do you mean? Adam Arishon was in Gan Eden. He still did Avera. He could come in. There are ways to get in. But in general, it is a protective bubble. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, that's Pshat Mitzvah Geras Mitzvah. V'hu or hamakifa k'mor le'el. V'hu yoshev mamish k'moy b'Gan Eden. V'hu nokel lasois mitzvah acheres. Says the Tana, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek. Not be'olam haba. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, if you would say every Jew has a chelek in olam haba, you would think like this. If I come to the shiur tonight, if I learn with Chavrusa, if I do a mitzvah, then I get a ticket, and after 120, I come to Rebbeinu Shalom and I show him the ticket, and Rebbeinu Shalom says, you know what? Let me find some schar for you. It's not the pshat. The pshat is when you do a mitzvah, Gan Eden comes down, and you feel it, and you're in it. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom takes that bubble, and he says, okay, that's yours. Kol Yisrael Yishem Chilek li olam haba. Says Chaim Volozhiner Nefesh Chaim, that's pshat. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvaysa. What does it mean Hashem sanctifies us with the mitzvahs? When you put on a pair of tzitzis, you have an arm makif, to the point where Reb Tzadok HaKohen writes in Rasisei Laila, when you put on talis, you're so protected in kedusha, you're so in Gan Eden, that the malachim, they look at you, they don't see any pagam, they don't see any averos, they don't even know who you are. They don't know who you are. They think you're the Gadol Hadar. Why? Because you're in this protective bubble. You are in Gan Eden. You're in the world to come. In this world, you're in the world to come. And that's why you daven in a talis. None of the malachim could be mekatrek. See, normally, if you're going to daven to Hashem, the malach's going to say, Hashem, you're going to listen to his tefillah. He has this avera, he has that avera. You put on the talis, you're in Gan Eden. Malachim don't see anything. They think you're the Gadol Hadar. That's the union of talis. Says Reb Chaim, it goes both ways. Now you say, is this really true? How come I never felt it? I don't feel it. I'm here now, good shiur, good food. I don't know how I feel. I'm in Gan Eden. So one thing I'll tell you for sure. I don't think there's anyone in the room who will deny that there was a time in your life when you did a mitzvah that you felt that you were in Gan Eden. You could probably look back at a mitzvah that you did. So you know what? That made me feel so elevated, so kadosh, so lofty. That's Gan Eden. And I can guarantee you, all of us, we've done things in our life. We've been in Gehenna as well. Gehenna mamish. Not something like Gehenna. It's Gehenna. Not every time you're going to feel like you're Gan Eden, and we'll have to see why. And not every time you feel... But we know what this means. I think we all know this. There's, on some dimension, we understand what it means. That's what Nefesh Chaim says. When you do a mitzvah, read to you again. Hu yoshev k'moy began Eden mamish makoim kadosh. The moment you rises in your mind to do a mitzvah, you are encircled with an or makif of kedusha. So I saw something very interesting. One of the Perushim on the Nefesh HaChaim in number 20, he says, now we understand. Yaakov Avinu comes into his father. Yaakov Avinu is a tzaddik. He's malei mitzvahs. He's malei zechusim. He's malei masim tovim. Yitzhak says, what's going on? I feel like Gan Eden is coming. Why? Because it was coming. It was Yaakov Avinu. He's melubash b'kedusha mamish. He's encircled b'or makiv. He's in Gan Eden. And Eisav Arasha, all of his averos, all of his ritzichos, all of his everything he did, he's living in Gehenna. So Yitzchak Avinu, vayecharad Yitzchak charado gedola ad ma'oy. So the question is, hello Yitzchak, what took you so long? You never realized Esav's Gehenna until now. Why was this the first day that Yitzchak Avinu woke up and smelled the coffee that Eisav Arasha was bringing Gehenna with him? So here's the chap. The Medrash says, so I found in a sefer, the name of the sefer is Rapduni B'Tapuchem. Rapduni B'Tapuchem, it was written, I think, by someone, Rav Asher Arieli's brother, Rav Shloima Arieli. So I didn't have the sefer. And somebody was kind enough to email it to me, Rav Avram Shor. I called him up the other night. He said he could get the sefer. He emailed me this Maramakim, Rapduni B'Tapuchem. So he says like this. Eisav Arasha, every single time he came to his father, why was he coming to his father? He was wearing Big Day Malchus. He was coming to bring his father food. Every time he came to his father, he came in Gan Eden Mamish. Gan Eden Mamish. Yitzchak Avinu, he's the God of Hadar. Yitzchak Avinu said, who is this? Every time this man comes, I smell Gan Eden, I taste Gan Eden. He's coming, Melubash Began Eden. After all, even the Malachim, when we wear our talis, they don't know who we are. In fact, there's a story, the Yemei Emes brings down a Maisa with the Chayz Milablin. Very interesting story. There was once a Moiser. Like in the olden days, the worst person in the world was the Moiser, right? And you'd go to the Rebbe, and you say, Rebbe, be mazkir the Moiser and kill the Moiser. And the Rebbe would say, Ploini ben Ploini, and the guy would drop dead. That's the story. So they once went to the Chayz Milablin, and he said, Chayz, say the name of the Moiser. So Chayz sits there. Moiser? This guy. It's Tzaddik Nifla. It's a tzaddik. I can't say his name. Rabbi, he's a Moiser. So I don't see it. He's a tzaddik. And they found out that at the moment that the Rebbe wanted to mazkir his name, he was lighting Neiros Chanukah. And at the time he's lighting Neiros Chanukah, he was melubash, he was encircled by Armakah. He was in Gan Eden. So the Rebbe didn't know who he was. The Rebbe thought he was a tzaddik. Every time Esau would come to his father, he came with Kibbut Avayim. He came with a great mitzvah. Not just a great mitzvah, the greatest mitzvah of Kibbut Avayim in the history of the world. So Yitzchak, he didn't understand. He loved when Eisav came. Every time Eisav came to him, he tasted Tam Gan Eden. He smelled Reach Gan Eden. More Reach Gan Eden even than Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu learned Torah. But when Yaakov Avinu did Kibbut Avayim, in other words, Yitzchak's encounter with Yaakov was not as wonderful as Yitzchak's encounter with Eisav. When Yitzchak saw Eisav, he saw more Or Makiv, he saw more Kedusha, and that masked his true self. Yaakov Avinu did Kibbut Avayim, but at the end of the day, Yaakov Avinu was into Olam Haba, not into Olam Hazeh. By the way, there's an amazing chap. Megal HaMukas has a chap. Yaakov's name was Yaakov. Why? Because he's holding on to the Akev. Okay, so call him Akev. We're calling him Yaakov for wrong name. Where'd the Yud come? Why is Eisav called Eisav? So Rashbam says because he was Asoy. Okay, I know how to spell Asoy. Ayin, Sin, Vav, Yud. So call him Asoy. Why he's called Eisav? So Megal HaMukas has a chap. That Yaakov really, the Yud shouldn't be in Yaakov. And the Yud, right? The Yud should be in Eisav. So how did Yaakov get the Yud? The answer is he was holding on to the heel of Eisav. The heel is the end. What's the end of Eisav? Asoy. Ayin, Sin, Vav, Yud. So he grabbed the Yud, and Akev became Yaakov. Yeah, you hear? Yaakov should be Akev, and Eisav should be Asoy. But he was holding on to the heel meaning the last ice. So he grabbed the last ice. Why do you think Yaakov even wanted the Yud? The Gemara says Yud is Olam Haba. Olam Hazeh is the Hey. Yud is Olam Haba. Hashem created Olam Haba with a Yud. Why? Yud. Ra'isi b'nei aliyah u'mu'atim heim. Not everybody makes it. It's a Yud. It's a small thing. It's a Yud. Olam haba. Yaakov said, I want Olam haba. I'm taking the yud for myself. Eisav, you don't get the yud. The yud belongs to me. So Yaakov was machshav Olam haba. So he was machshav. He could never muster the armakif of kibbut av like Esau. So Yitzhak was fooled. Anyone would be fooled. The Malachei Asharis were fooled. Eisav always came bereach Gan Eden. Every time Eisav walked into the room, you know what Yitzchak said? Re'ei reach beni kereach hasad asher bercha Hashem. But says Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, on that fateful day, Esau was going. He was, shooting his bow. He caught a deer. The Medrash says in number 21. I'm Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Koloisai hayayim haya Eisav tzad tzvam. The whole day he was catching deer. The kaifsan, he was tying them up. Umalach bo matiran. The malach came and he loosened them. So Eisav chapped the deer, and the malach came and untied it. Eisav was pulling his hair out. He went to catch another deer. The malach came and untied it. Deer. He can't get it. He said, let me try to get some birds. So he caught a bird, and then the second he went somewhere else, the malach came, untied the bird. The malach was playing pranks on Eisav. So Eisav didn't know what to do. So what did he do? Says Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, number 22. Ve'ikev meimra d'Hashem minei tzeda. The word of Hashem withheld the game from him. Tachya, kosher game, a kosher animal. Ve'ashkach kalba. And Esau found a kalba. What's a kalba? A dog. So I asked, what do you make out of it? Hot dogs, I guess. Huh? Sorry, I had it. Okay, so what's he gonna? So he came with a dog. I don't know what he did with it. He made a tavshel. Targum says he made a tavshel. That ain't no kibbut avayim. The mask is off. There's no armakiv. There's no mitzvah kibbut avayim anymore. There's no kedusha. There's no Gan Eden. Now Esav's true self comes out. Vayecharad Yitzchak charodo gedoyla ad me'oid. Yitzchak couldn't believe it. How did he fall for it? It's the first time that Yitzchak was able to see Eisav not masked by the armakiv, not masked by the mitzvah, not masked by Gan Eden mamish b'olam hazeh. That's the pshat of the Raptuni betapuchem. Amazing pshat. Number 26. V'tamid k'shenichnas eitzlai Eisav lo haya yimo gehenem. Kivan shetamid k'shenichnas lo haya kibbut av. V'ar mitzvah heir olav. Aval achshav shehiskoyin elachazov kalba. But now that he wanted to serve a dog, that ain't no kibbut avayim. There's no armakiv. Yitzchak finally saw the raw truth of who Esau was. So I want to share with you, just for closing, a diuk in the Mesilas Yesharim. Of all the Svarim, even for me personally, Kol Svarim Kodesh, Mesilas Yesharim Kodesh Kodashim. And of all the Mesilas Yesharim, the Gra is reputed to have said he read the first 11 chapters of Mesilas Yesharim. There's not one extra word in the Mesilas Yesharim. He said the Ramchal was alive in his lifetime. He would walk barefoot to meet him. You read Mesilas Yesharim, you're entitled to be medayik in every word like a Rishon. And of all the Mesilas Yesharim, the most important parak is parak Aleph. And of all parak Aleph, the first 8 lines. If you're stranded on a desert island and you can only learn 8 lines of anything, I'm not masupik. I would tell you definitively, this is all you need to know. This is, in Yadus, in Yiddishkeit, this is Yesod HaYesodis. This is what Mesilas Yesharim says. Let's read the words, but I've read this many, many times. I never picked up on it. Mesilas Yesharim says, number 29, Parak Aleph, Yesod HaChasidus V'Shoresh HaAvodat Mimo. What is the foundation of Avodas Hashem? It says Mesilas Yesharim, Sheyisbarer B'Yisames Eitzel HaAdam Machayvasad B'Olam. You have to know what you're here on this world for. That's the bottom line. You have to know, what are you here for? What is your ambition in this world? What are you looking for? What are you looking to accomplish in this world? God put you down here on this world for a short amount of time. What are you here for? So Mesilas Yesharim says, let me tell you. So the second last thing he says, Sheha Adam Lai Nivra Ella Lehisaneg Al Hashem V'Leihanois Mizav Shchinasa. You know why Hashem created a person? For pleasure, for hana, for happiness. And you know what the pleasure is? The pleasure is to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Really? That's it? Yeah. That's the greatest pleasure. How great is it? Listen to this. This is the key line. Shezehu hatainog ha'amiti v'ha'idon hagado mikol ha'idunim shechem l'maseh. This is the true delight. This is the greatest pleasure. The greatest pleasure in the world, not food, not any other pleasure, the greatest pleasure in the world is to connect to the Shekhinah. Now, he uses a very interesting word. Tainug ha'amiti, a true pleasure. What do you mean true pleasure? There's no such thing. When it comes to pleasure, you wouldn't think there's true and false. Pleasure is not an objective thing. It's subjective. He likes this restaurant, I like this restaurant. He likes kavod, and this guy likes nachas from the shul. Everybody has different things that they like. Could you say there's a true pleasure? Is there objective pleasure? I thought tam v'reach ein l'svakeach. I thought he likes Pepsi, I like Colt. He likes chocolate, I like vanilla. What do you mean tainug ha'amiti? The answer is this is wrong. There is objective pleasure. There is objective pleasure that in comparison to it, everything else is nonsense. And that is to connect to Rebbeinu Shalom. Everything else is not tainug ha'amiti. People may think it is, people may feel it is, but it's all a hoax. It's all a scam. It's counterfeit. That's the first thing. But here's the diak. Here's the $1 million diak. If you ever learned the Silas Sharm, I can't believe I didn't get that. Says the Ramchal. You ready? Shezehu hatainug ha'amiti v'ha'idon hagado. Connecting to Hashem is the true tainug and the greatest pleasure. Again, two things. Tainug ha'amiti v'ha'idon hagado. And then Mesilas Hashem says, Umakoim ha'idon hazeh be'emes hu olam haba. And where do you get it? Where do you get the greatest pleasure available in the universe? The world to come. Ribono d'alma kula. There's something missing over here. The Mesilas Hashem said that connecting to Rebbeinu Shalom is tainug ha'amiti v'idon hagado. Two things. It's a tainug, it's a delight, and it's a idon, it's a pleasure. And he says, Makoim ha'idon is olam haba. Could someone tell me where the Makoim ha'tainug is? Where's the Makoim ha'tainug? Mesilas Hashem says, it's the idon hagadol, and the Makoim ha'idon is olam haba. But he also said, it's tainug ha'amiti. That connecting with the Rebbeinu Shalom is the true tainug. Why doesn't the Mesilas Hashem say, O Makoim ha'tainug v'ha'idon olam haba? You hear the kasha? Yeah, or whatever. Right? Mesilas Hashem said, connecting to Rebbeinu Shalom is two things. Right? If I tell you, the greatest pleasure, the best pleasure, and the place to get the greatest pleasure is so-and-so. Well, where's the place to get the best pleasure? I mean, he's not just being poetic. He's talking about one thing. He's calling it tainug ha'amiti, and he's calling it idon hagado. So idon hagado, he tells us, is an olam haba. Where do you get the tainug? Says Rav Voba. You see from the Ramchal that the tainug ha'amiti is not an olam haba. It's an olam hazeh. That if you want to get tainug ha'amiti, again, if you want counterfeit, if you want a hoax, if you want a scam, if you want something that doesn't really make you happy, then don't listen. But if you want tainug ha'amiti, true tainug, again, objectively the best pleasure, the objective greatest pleasure, the idon is an olam haba, and the tainug is an olam hazeh. Where? When? Show me. What did I miss? I missed the boat? Where is it? The answer is, we just learned it tonight. That's the nefesh HaChaim. And when a person does a mitzvah, it brings a person in Gan Eden mamish ba'olam hazeh. So you say, how come I don't feel it? So again, this is the Yisaid. Let's get the Yisaid before all the kashas. I don't feel it, I'm not in touch with it, I argue, I hold a different pleasure is better. Let's get what the Ramchal is saying. The Ramchal is saying, the greatest pleasure is in olam haba, but the greatest tainug is in olam hazeh, and that is connecting to Hashem. So this is a tremendous chiddush. Says Rav Vova, this is the most revolutionary chiddush that should change a person's entire outlook on life. Because that means, most people, you ask them, what do you want? What do you want? Everybody has the same answer. Everybody wants pleasure. It's just everybody has a different definition of pleasure. Some people like A, some people like B, some people like C, some people like D. But if we were able to define that there is one thing that is objectively greater than anything else, then we have to reevaluate. So Mesilas Hashem is telling you, yeah, we do. We need to reevaluate. because even big Talmei Chachamim, and even people who fulfill all the mitzvahs, but are we makir this nakuda, that mitzvah is a nice thing to do, but of all the tanugei olam hazeh, connecting with Rebbe Hashem is the tainug ha'amiti. So Rav Wolbe gives 3 mitzvahs specifically, where a person is able to tap into this tainug, to this enjoyment, this tainug ha'amiti. First of all, he says that we know limud haTorah more than any other mitzvah. Limud haTorah is called shashuim. Lulei sayroscha shashuai. Limud haTorah is a delight. It's something that gives the heart a certain delight more than any tanugei olam hazeh. Yeah, but I like tanugei olam hazeh. No. You're not a connoisseur yet. You know, some pleasures it's a developed taste, it's an acquired taste, it's a sophisticated taste, but it's objectively better. The limud haTorah is something where a person could experience the tainug ha'amiti. Rav Wolbe says, tefillah. What's tefillah? If you look in the Alei Shur, in Chelek Beis, Sharavi, number 30, he says in Ois Beis, at the bottom of page 5, he says, Reb Chaim Volozhiner says, what's tefillah? For a person to be able to remove from his mind, remove from his thoughts, desire for olam hazeh, just to turn his eyes heavenward, lehisaneg al Hashem b'tevois hatfilah. Now that's a very high madrega. When was the last time we stood there with a siddur and we were, I'm not hungry now. Now I want to be misaneg al Hashem b'tevois hatfilah. When was the last time we did that? But apparently it's available. It's a pleasure that's available. We have to figure out how we're going to do that. But it's available. Says the Alei Shur, Shabbos, what's Neshama Yisera? Rabbi Chanan writes, Neshama Yisera is that not just bigger Neshama to eat more, it's a more sophisticated Neshama. During the week, it's harder to be Misaneg al Hashem. On Shabbos, the Neshama is elevated to a state where its capacity for this tainug ha'amiti is heightened. We'll just throw one idea out. Again, why it is that, in a way, we feel a little bit distant from this. What's he talking about? When I do a mitzvah, do I really feel happier than when I experience other pleasures? Well, the Alei Shur says, the Rambam says like this, right? We know, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakus es Yisrael, lefikach, hirba lahem, Torah mitzvahs. Hashem wanted to be mezaka, so He gave us a lot of mitzvahs. Says the Rambam in his Parshas Mishnayos, that Hashem knows that if a person were to do one mitzvah completely lishma, one time, he gets chai olam haba immediately. The only thing is, it's very hard to do a mitzvah perfectly lishma. So Rebbe Hashem gave us so many mitzvahs. Chances are, once in 120 years, you'll do one mitzvah the right way. One time in your life. Chances are, with 613 mitzvahs, and every day, one time you'll get it right. So says Rav Wolbe, you see from here, that to experience olam haba, what's a critical ingredient? You need the lishma aspect. It has to be a mitzvah done with pure motives, not for ulterior motives. But again, the more we're able to do a mitzvah lishma, the more we're able to tap in to this idea of the nefesh HaChaim. And when a person does a mitzvah, it's not, oh, the Hashem gives you a ticket, and then you hold on, don't lose the ticket, because you're going to have to cash it in after 120. No. Immediately when a person sets to his mind to Mekayim a mitzvah, he is enveloped, Began Eden HaTachtoin, Mamish Ba'olam Hazeh, and then the Rebbe Hashem says, okay, I'll take a picture of that, let me capture that, I'm going to put that in the tester, I'm going to put that in the vault for Olam Haba. Not Kol Yisrael Yirsam Chelek Ba'olam Haba, it's now, it's the La Olam Haba. And this is the inyan that Yitzhak Avinu perceived. That every single time that Esau Rasha came to Yitzchak, he was masked, he was hidden, he was covered. What was he covered in? The Armak, if he was covered in the Gan Eden that he entered with. And on that fateful day, the Rebbe Shalom foiled his plot. He brought him a dog, there was no mitzvah, and the true Eisav came out. But Yaakov Avinu comes in with kibud aim, and he says, Re'eh, Re'ach Bani, Kareach Hasada, Asher, Berchai Hashem. So, when Mispal the Rebbe Shalom should give us Siyat Shmaya to do mitzvahs properly, and we should have a Tam Gan Eden, Ba'olam Hazeh, and we should be Zoichel L'chai Olam Haba. Thank you very much. Goya. Yeah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.